Welcome to the apex of sports ownership, the Apex Athletic Collective.
Welcome everyone to episode 80 of Instigate Success Building an ABA Franchise. I am your host, as always, Jake Schoen, aka Jakeymuffins here. Every Friday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. For the next hour or so, we've got some news for the Instigators as well as the ABA. This weekend, we'll be going into play-in rounds as far as the ABA season goes. So regular season is all wrapped up. And then we'll have play-ins this weekend, followed by the playoffs starting next weekend. Thank you, as always, to everyone joining here, whether you're joining through Patreon or on Twitch. We do stream this live on Twitch now as well. And thank you, as always, again, to everyone who watches and to all of our Patreon members. Over 125. I think we're almost at 150 now. Once we hit 150, sure we'll make a new graphic there, throw that up every week. But just a reminder, for everyone on Patreon. If you're a subscriber, you'll be able to catch the play-in game live for the Instigators this weekend. But we'll go into the breakdown of what games we've got going on there. Always nice to see our guy Jay Wright in the comments there. I'm sure you're looking forward to this weekend just as much as we are. But let's wrap up how this season ended. So we had a few games that we had to get kind of rescheduled to end the regular season for the Instigators. And those last three games, we made a graphic for that because we had to get some things rearranged to make sure everything fit the schedule. Obviously, I think tentatively our original schedule had a game this weekend. But once, we realized that play-ins were going to be starting this weekend, we had to shift some things around. And then we also had a game originally on a Friday, which didn't wind up working. So we shifted that to a Saturday and then the Saturday to a Sunday. So we had a few games to wrap up our season to this past weekend. And we will be working on getting those videos out soon for the streams of those games. I apologize for not having those up already. Just been a little hectic here, arranging schedules for myself and Frosty to get those out. But this is the last stretch of our games from the regular season. So going into this, we had 7 wins. I believe we had that opportunity. We knew we were going to finish either above 500 or below 500 because we did not have an even number of games. So in the end, we wound up below 500. I believe that puts us at 7-10 on the season, if I'm not mistaken. But we had that game a couple of weeks ago, our final regular season home game against the Miners. And again, that's at Best Choice Fieldhouse, the official home venue for this season 2. So final regular season game, but we'll be making an announcement here that we will be having another home game, and time and location we'll be sharing that here later tonight on this episode. But we had that game against the Miners, an 8-point loss there. Then we had the 2 games this weekend. This past weekend against the Kings and the Aces, 2 familiar teams from the Red Division. We are in the Black Division now, but the Red Division was our home last season, and the Kings and the Aces, both respective teams in that division, fighting for their playoff rankings as far as the standings in their division go. And Kings with a 2-point victory, a 120 to 122 loss for your Hoosier State Instigators. Closest game we've had to the Kings so far. The Kings are a team that seem to put up a ton of points every time we play them. We always play them hard, but they have gotten a victory every time so far in these head-to-head matchups. One thing to note, though, and we'll pull up the stats, or at least what we have for the stats. But one thing to note is that they were without their leading scorer, Cam Mitchell, he is down in Mexico again, so he is playing professionally in Mexico. Obviously, congrats to him. One of the best players in the ABA. Dude averages like 40 plus points a game, somewhere around there. So obviously he's very talented, but nevertheless a good team showing from the Kings in that matchup. And then we played the Aces, a team that we were able to defeat earlier this season when they were ranked in the top 10 as far as the power rankings go. This time, though, not able to pull off the victory on the road. A 139 165 defeat. Be honest, I didn't get a chance to catch these games, but just looking at those scores, that second game there, obviously that's a big number of points to let up. Hopefully that defensive effort is something we can improve upon a little bit here when we go into the play-in tournament this weekend. Obviously, we don't want to be giving up 165 points. But I did hear a rumor that we may have had a player break the single point record in that game. So once we get that stream out, we'll be putting graphics out and whatnot for that. But there's a little teaser there if you didn't catch that game as well. But definitely, a tough stretch there to end the season. We wanted to finish the season um, as close to 500, if not above 500. Nevertheless, though, 7 wins is an improvement upon last season. So we did improve in season two. Obviously that's what we want to do: continue to improve each year and each season. And we have been able to accomplish that. Um, we have had a lot of injuries, and you know. We've been a little limited on players this season as well, so I think that's played into some of these games as well. When you think about it, but we got the play-ins and the playoffs coming up. So regardless of what's going on, you got to get that all on the right path. So the the team, hopefully we can rally around this and go into the playoffs on on some momentum here. Once we get that play-in game under our belt, I think if we can run off of that, then we'll have a tough matchup. Obviously with the play-ins, if you win that play-in, you're going to have to play the number one seed. That's going to be the Chicago Fury, the number one power ranked team in the whole league. And so the player who broke the record, see that question there. If I'm not mistaken, again, I apologize. I have not had a chance to watch these games, but I believe it might be Tay. So that's the teaser. I will have to pull the exact numbers and everything, but I believe he may have been the one that broke that record, and the record was held by Lawan Whitney. Our previous all-time leading scorer from season one. Then obviously we had AB break that all-time record this season, and we'll see what happens next season as far as the all-time records go. But I believe that is the man who wound up breaking that record. But I'll have to make some graphics and stuff once we get that all confirmed. But we'll do a final power rankings here. As I mentioned, the Chicago Fury, number one team in the ABA and regular season power rankings, undefeated on the season, 18-0. And one of three teams, I believe, that wound up finishing the season undefeated. You also got the Silicon Valley Panthers at number two, and then I'm not sure how, but the Austin Bats got put at number 7 in the power rankings, even though they wound up going undefeated on the season. Obviously, there are some very talented teams with losses on the season, though, and apparently that played into the factor with a few of those teams above them. Obviously, I keep an eye on the Buffalo Extreme. I've mentioned before, one of their players, Howard Washington, was on Syracuse when I was attending college up there, so I always try to follow the team there. But they finished the season at number 4 with 1 loss on the season. But you even got a 2-loss team there above the undefeated Austin Bats. You got the Legends there with the 2 loss. But you take a look there at a couple of the teams we have played in this season, and a couple of teams we have beaten this season, finished in this power rankings. Got number 11 or tied for number 11. We got the Nashville Aces, 14-2. So one of their losses came at the hands of the Hoosier State Instigators, as well as the Indiana Lions at number 12, 20-5 for the season. Um, and I think that covers all the teams there that are in the divisions that we've played this season, with it being the whether it being our previous division, the red division, or the black division from the central region. We know the Inferno were up in those rankings. It looks like they have fallen off in those final standings there. One team I do like to shout out as well is the uh, Mississippi Silverbacks, finishing the season at number 23. A team that was struggling early in the season, but on a hot streak to end with a 12-7 record there. They, I believe, were the representative of the South last year in the Final Four for uh, in the ABA championship weekend. I believe they are the representative for the South. We also had the Silicon Valley Panthers, obviously, out in the West, and then Binghamton Bulldogs, I believe, out in the East. They wound up finishing at tied number 11 as well. So all the teams from last season in that top 4 do wind up making the power rankings there. So consistency is key for those teams as well. But the Silverbacks definitely had a much tougher road going into that. They were under 500 for a good part of that early portion of the season, but again, they turned things around and got themselves in a nice position there to end the year, and that puts all of them in the top 25. And before we jump over and look at the scores from this past weekend and take a deeper look at that, as well as the um, playoffs and play-ins, where that all stands, with it being the end of the regular season, the ABA also put out the all pro teams. So we have a first and a second all pro team, as well as an honorable mention all pro team. And we do have one instigator that did make one of those lists. So we will make that the one big, what do we call it? The big news of the day. So we will share that here. So first team, we did not have a player on first team. So it's either going to be second or honorable mention. But on first team there, congratulations to all the players on first team All ABA for 2025. We do see, believe, at least a few players that we have played against. Obviously, Cameron Mitchell from the Ohio Kings, right there in that uh, second on the left, we have Cam Mitchell. Again, a player that is over in Mexico now, playing professionally, and one of the leading scorers in the ABA. And just skimming through here, we do have, it looks like, a player in our division as well, a couple of players in our division. Devonta Jones with the Chicago Fury over on the right lane, towards the middle there. Obviously, the Fury are going to have a player there. You'd expect, at least, being the number 1 team. And then all the way at the bottom there, we do also see Rodney Gatson Jr. And He is on the Windy City Inferno, a team we have not played yet, but a team in our division. So congrats to both of those guys on making the first team All ABA, and then a team that we have played as well, the Louisville Pros. There in the center, towards the middle, a little bit above middle. Dominique Williams, also making first team All ABA. So a few guys that we've seen on the court, a couple of guys in our division, and impressive for all of these guys to make that first team All ABA. So let's jump over to second team. And second team All ABA. This is the one that we have a player on. Congratulations to Malcolm Martin for making it to second team All ABA. Huge accomplishment for Malcolm, and being a leader on and off the court for the Hoosier State Instigators. He has done an amazing job in his first season as an instigator, and he has definitely earned that spot on the second team All ABA this season. Definitely a guy that we love seeing on the court, and his presence is felt on both sides, offense and defense. He is one of our top guys, and his hard work has gone around and been noticed by the league. So congratulations, Malcolm. Huge accomplishment, and we're very proud of that accomplishment, and we're very appreciative to have you on the team this season. Looking around here, we also got a couple of guys within our division. Just going through the list there. Southland Saints, we got Amani Shorter. Then we've got Austin Capri. The Chicago Fury, their big man. We saw him dominate the boards in that matchup against us. And I think he was actually on, if I'm not mistaken, he was the guy on the picture for the power rankings. So there's another guy within our division. And then we've also got Shamar Overstreet on the Louisville Pros, a team that we have played and was in our division last season, in the red division. So another guy that we've played. And then I mentioned the guy that I watch when I try to follow this, the Buffalo Extreme, Howard Washington there in the left side towards the bottom. He was at Syracuse when I was attending college, so a guy I wind up keeping an eye on throughout the season. So congratulations to all of those guys for making the second team All ABA. Again, huge shout out to Malcolm Martin. Well deserved honor there to make the second team All ABA. And the honorable mention list, it's a very long list there. Let's see if I can just skim through here and see if there's any names that stand out. The formatting is also different on this one. We've got the Columbus Wizards. We played that team a couple of times. They have a few players on there. I see at the top they got Alante Gorham, Brandon Wilkins, also from the Columbus Wizards, on there. Nashville Aces, DJ Little, another team that we have played. Again, for the Nashville Aces, George Stanberry. Ohio Kings, Jakata Stone. Nashville Aces, Jamario Rivers. Columbus Wizards, Justin Zumbrun. Ohio Kings, Kevin Mitchell, the brother of Cameron Mitchell. So both Mitchells making the All ABA. Cam with the first team, and then Kevin with the honorable mention. Windy City Inferno, a team within our division. Mies Mathis there. Columbus Wizards, seems like maybe the whole starting five for the Columbus Wizards might be on this honorable mention list with Philip Bledsoe and Sean Rogers again from the Columbus Wizards. Windy City Inferno with Shamar Pumphrey. And also from Windy City Inferno is Vern Harris. So I think that covers all the guys within our division or teams that we have played this season. But just only one Instigator player. I mean, obviously, I feel like we've had a few guys that could have been on any of these lists. But congrats to Malcolm Martin for being the representative for the Hoosier State Instigators this season when it comes to the All ABA roster. And congratulations to all the players that have made all these lists, whether it's first, second, or honorable mention. Well-deserved honor for each and every one of these players. Um, but that is, a great accomplishment for all of those guys, and a cool thing for the ABA to do each year. But let's jump over to the games from this past weekend. Take a look at the scores around our division to end out the season. And then take a look at where the play-ins and playoffs are going to be happening this weekend, and see what we've got coming up here for the Instigators. And then also we'll take a look at the red division as well, because obviously we were part of that red division last season. They've got some interesting stuff going on over there, just as interesting as our division, if I'm being quite honest. So once we take a look at these scores from around the league, or around our division, this past weekend, we'll jump into what's going on around the ABA, because when it comes to the playoffs, we are learning stuff just this week as far as it goes. So we'll share that new news that we found out this week. I guess that could actually be more of the big news. We might have another big news thing this week about the playoffs and play-ins. So let's jump over there. And I believe there will be a All-Star game this year again. I don't know the rosters yet for it, but I do believe there is at least the intention for that to be played again this year. I do know that the All-Star, I believe the championship weekend, it is going to be at St. Louis this year. So that is um, the venue they picked is over in St. Louis this year, and I do believe they still plan on doing an All-Star game and like the All-Star festivities. I do know that they also plan on doing like a 3-on-3 tournament that weekend. So I don't know if that's going to wind up replacing the All-Star festivities or if that's going to be an addition. Things are very fluent within the ABA, but that's at least what I know from this point right now is I believe we're still tentatively supposed to have all those all of those things going on here for All Star, or I guess Championship weekend. So looking around the league here for the last weekend of games, again, obviously, there were some games that were scheduled for this weekend, but we as well as the other teams on there have rearranged the schedules. That way, obviously with play-ins this weekend, we can't continue to keep playing the regular season games because we have to play those other games instead. So we got that 120-122 loss for the Instigators, a 2-point loss there against the Kings. And we'll take a look here at the scorecards. So as far as this goes, it looks like the first half, Instigators found themselves down, especially in that second quarter. A comeback there in the fourth did not get all the way through, but it got the Instigators very close there at the end with a 2-point loss. And again, a smaller roster there. Obviously we've been dealing with some injuries and other things throughout the season, but that is the guys we had in that matchup there. A couple of guys that are newer to the team that we've seen just for the past few weeks, including Miro, the big man, 13 points. And again, it looks like points are the only stat that got recorded there. The rest of them did not get properly on there. And then Greg Hardiman, again, another guy that was newer to the roster. Leading scorer for the game, though, Cash Bell with 23 points. Solid scoring day for him. Over 20 as well is Levante Nelson, 7 of 14 for threes, 50% on the field, and LB also with 20 points. Um, and also a huge shout out there to Steve Rogers with 16 points. I believe that has to be his highest scoring totals on the season. And it looks like he also started the game. So looks like that was a good game overall for Steve, Captain America, a guy that we've seen from time to time, step up when he has had the opportunity to be on the court. One of our younger guys that we know definitely has the potential and the ability to do that. So I always love to see guys, take advantage of those opportunities and step up. So congrats there to Steve Rogers, Captain America, with 16 points on that game. Dame also with 16, and JoJo with 8. So pretty solid distribution as far as the scoring goes around the team in that matchup. Um, even though JoJo's got 8, his shooting percentage is very efficient, though, making all of his 2-pointer shots and 2 out of 3 3-point shots. So efficient from the field, even if he didn't break that uh, the double digits for that matchup. But overall, a pretty solid shooting performance, 44% from threes, 77 free throw, and 52 on the 2-pointers. Taking a look at the Kings, as I mentioned, Cam Mitchell did not play in this game. He is over in Mexico preparing for his season. His brother, though, Kevin Mitchell, led the team there with 34 points. Obviously the Mitchells we've seen are a very good at scoring. We also got Kelsey Mitchell related to them as well. She's a WNBA player. Um, so we've got that. But then you take a look at the other guys on the team. Yeah, Vernon Sims with 22 points, 17 rebounds, a double double for them, or for him. And we've also got Darnell Jordan Jr. with 20 points. Jakata Stone, one of those guys on that all ABA list, as well as Kevin Mitchell on the honorable mention there. And also see, it looks like Virgil Lackey with 11 rebounds and 4 blocks. Pretty solid defensive effort there from him. But definitely it looks like the main scorer there was maybe not the Mitchell that we had thought going into the game, but a Mitchell nonetheless, leading the Kings in that game with 34 points and getting them to a 2-point victory over the Hoosier State Instigators. And if we look at that, I mean, shooting percentage wise, the Instigators actually shot better from threes and the same from twos and a little bit worse on the free throw line. But if you look at that, the big difference is going to be the shot attempts. So the shot attempts, huge difference there as far as the 2-point shot attempts for the Kings. But if you add up, I mean, that's still a good bit different because we had more 3-point attempts, but the shot attempt difference, that's ultimately where the Kings were able to get the additional 2 points to walk away with that victory. Then we'll go back and look at the other matchup from this weekend. And we had the game, obviously, that was on Saturday, was against the Kings. Then we had the matchup against the Aces. On Sunday. And yeah, definitely the offensive rebounds. That is what kills us. Hopefully again that's something we can defensively we can have a little bit of a better effort this weekend going into the play-in game. Um, Now we got this game against the Aces, and I know the stats did not transfer as far as I know. Those stats have not been recorded for that game. But again, like I said, once we do that broadcast, we'll have to get the official breakdown on the stats. One of the other co-owners on there, he's normally on top of it and has all the stats on hand. So I will leave that to him to break down. But the overall score we do have recorded there, 139, 165. And I believe that puts us actually at 7-10 on the season. I think one of our games did not get recorded properly on that. On here, yeah, that game against the Miners for whatever reason did not get a properly recorded on the My Stats portal. So that actually puts the Instigators at 7-10 on the season. The only other team in the division playing for this past weekend was the Saints. They went on the road to play the Indiana Lions. And the Lions looking to secure that #1 seed. Obviously they would have liked the help from us going against the Aces, and the Aces were the #2 seed in that division going through the weekend. Aces played several games throughout the weekend, but we'll jump into the red division a little bit more here after we cover ours. But pretty good win there for the Lions, puts them 20-6 with 115-98 victory over the Saints, dropping them to 8-5. So let's jump into the standings, and we'll do our division first, and then, like I said, we'll look at the red division as well, being that we were in the red division last season, and it also gives us something a little bit more to talk about with how things went down in the ABA. So if we take a look here and see the standings for the Central Black Division, you may notice something that stands out pretty quickly. If you've been following these standings throughout the whole season, you'll notice there's an extra team on there. There is now a sixth team. There was six teams, with the Midwest Monsters. The Midwest Monsters, though, dropped out for the season and are no longer competing. But you'll notice a new sixth team has been added. The Chicago Rebels have now been added to the ABA Central Black Division. This is also, I guess we could do the graphic here. That is more big news of the day. We found out this week. It is not something we were aware of until we saw the play-ins, and what was happening is the Chicago Rebels are actually part of our division now. So this was a decision that the ABA made to realign the conferences after the season. It is not something we expected, but it is something that did happen. So the Chicago Rebels are now in the division, and they will be playing the Wisconsin Frost for the very first play-in game of the division this weekend. So that is, yeah, interesting. That is the very best way to put it. I'm not sure the reasoning behind it, other than maybe it would have made things a little bit more awkward in their original division. But that also means it shifts our game. So instead of us playing the Wisconsin Frost as we had anticipated for the past few weeks, at least tentatively, that was looking like the most probable outcome, was we are going to be playing the Wisconsin Frost. Now the Rebels go to Wisconsin to play the Frost on Saturday, tomorrow, and the winner of that game will travel to Fishers to play us on Sunday. So we actually get we have another game at home. We did get the same venue, so we will be playing another home game at Best Choice Fieldhouse. Obviously, we are very glad to be back there for at least one more game. And actually, this probably will be the only other game, because if we do win, then we'll be on the road anyways. So at least we got one more home game for the Instigators at Best Choice Fieldhouse. But we'll be making official announcements on that believe it is tentatively set for 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Sunday. And we will be playing whoever wins that matchup between the Rebels and the Frost. Um, and they will have a good bit of travel, I'm sure, because I think they will be playing that Wisconsin Frost home venue for that matchup. So they'll be traveling from Wisconsin, whatever team does prove to be the winner. And they will take on your Hoosier State Instigators on Sunday. So breaking news, exciting news. Obviously we all thought that it was going to be the Frost against us once we saw the Monsters, kind of stop playing some games and then ultimately drop out. But now we've got this extra little piece of the puzzle to get figured out on Saturday. So it also moves it. So instead of our game being on possibly Saturday, makes it so our game has to be on Sunday. So that is what we've got going on within our division. And then we take a look at the final standings within the rest of the division there. And we see the Chicago Fury, obviously the number 1 seed. We knew they were going to be the number 1 seed. They locked that up a while ago. Then we've got Windy City Inferno at number 2 and the Southland Saints at number 3. So winner of this weekend of the play-in tournament goes on to play the Chicago Fury, and they will be hosting the next weekend of playoff games. That'll be the playoffs, the divisional round, hosted by Chicago. Then the winner of the Inferno and Saints game will then go on to play the winner of the Fury and play-in winner game. And that'll be the game for the division. Whoever wins that moves on to the regional division, regional round of playoffs. But interesting, again, interesting tidbit that got added this week while we were trying to get games scheduled or trying to get the play-in game scheduled. We only have one game this weekend, but that was something that the league threw on at the last minute. And we see there the Frost are 4-7 on the season. Rebels at 4-9. So let's take a look and see these two teams and see if we got any common opponents on the season. We have not matched up against either one of them this season, so it is something to just look at quickly and see if there's any common opponents. So the Lions we have played. So significant loss there against the Lions. And it looks like the Frost and the Rebels have matched up already this season. Oh, so interesting there. But that was in Chicago, a 7-point victory by the Frost over the Rebels, 88-81. Again, that's an odd game there with a low scoring game. So we'll be in for all sorts of fun, interesting matchups, I'm sure, this weekend when it comes to that. Southland Saints, we didn't play them this year, but we did play them last season. An overtime loss against the Saints for the Frost. And then they played the Lions again, a much closer game there, though. Just a 12-point loss in that January matchup. But we take a look here, and it looks like a lot of these other games did not get played out to completion. So not sure as far as recently, unless that is their last game there. Might have been against the Windy City Inferno back in the end of January, a 40-point loss. So be interesting to see how that plays out for the Frost. And then we'll take a look at the Chicago Rebels as well. So 4-9 on the season, and see if they've played any other similar opponents. So Windy City Inferno, again, we have not played them, but within our division. And man, the Rebels must have a really good defense. All these are very, very low scoring games. That's a crazy one. The 84-33 victory over the Monsters. Just a ridiculous number there on the defensive end. Then we've got the Indiana Legends, a team we've played a few times this season. They wound up winning the Legends with a 109-96 victory over the Rebels. Louisville Pros, again, another team we've played this season with a 127-114 victory over the Rebels. Lions 129-70 over the Rebels. Saints 83-73. And interesting. It looks like both of these teams, the last reported games they have were the end of January. So it looks like they're about the same way through the season, where they kind of wrap things up. So it'll be an interesting matchup there on Saturday. We look forward to hosting whoever we do wind up playing in that matchup. But that is your final standings within our division, the Black Division. And I honestly do not know if the game will be live streamed. I know we will not have a camera there for the game, so it'll ultimately be up to the Frost and the Rebels. It comes down to if they are going to have a camera on site and we'll be streaming that. I hope they do. Obviously, I'd love to see the game, and then we can have some film to scout as well going into the matchup the next day. But I honestly do not know if it will be live streamed or not. Or if we're just going to find out on Sunday by whichever team shows up to the facility. But that is that's what we got going on in the Black Division. For the Central Region. And the Instigators game, yes, that one, unless something changes, we do plan on getting that one live streamed. Again, that's going to be live streamed for all of our Patreon members, anyone at the dollar or tier higher. And again, that's tentatively scheduled for 5 p.m. on Sunday. It's at our home venue, the Best Choice Fieldhouse in Fishers, Indiana. But yes, that one is it is scheduled to be live streamed unless we run into some kind of technical difficulties. But we do definitely plan on that one being live. So you won't miss the Instigators action. The play-in prior to that, though, I'm not sure if that will be on live or not, or even if they will record it. It's a little bit difficult to find information on those teams. I tried to see, but I was not able to find a ton of information on either of those teams, unfortunately. But we'll take a look here within the rest of the ABA, and we'll focus mainly on that red division, again, because that was the division we were in last season. We see in the Central Division, we've also got the Blue Division. Columbus Wizards win that division and will be the #1 seed in their divisions at 9-4. The other two teams in that division, Yellow Jackets and Aviators, believe they're going to play off against each other. The winner of that will then go on to play the Wizards for the division. But the red division, we'll jump into that here in just a minute. We got the white division as well, another division with just 3 teams. 402 Elite winning that division at the #1 seed, 9-3 on the season, and then the Gamblers and Capitals believe that's going to be a matchup there. Winner of that would then go on to play the 402 Elite. So the red division, this is where things get interesting a little bit here. So the Lions, you can see there officially are the #1 seed at 20-6. The Aces finish at 15-3 for the #2 seed. The Aces played 4 games this past weekend, if I'm not mistaken. Actually, let me see if I can pull that. But I believe they played 4 games this past weekend, or at least tried to play 4 games this weekend. Maybe they played 3 games. It was a lot of games, however many games they did play. 3 games. They played 3 games this past weekend. So Friday, they had a Friday game. They played the Louisville Pros. They won that 162-136. Saturday, they went and played the Warriors and got a 126-91 victory. Then they played us on Sunday, and they got a 165-139 victory. So very eventful weekend for the Aces. They were trying to rack up as many wins as they could going into the end of the season to get themselves up to that #1 seed. That is ultimately what they were trying to do, and they needed some things to fall their way when it came to that, and that would include the Lions coming to some losses. So let's take a look at the Lions end of the season here as well. So we see the last weekend for the Lions, they lost against the Columbus Wizards, by 1 point. Again, Columbus Wizards a very good team, and they're the number one team in their division. But that put the Lions on a losing streak there. We've got the one that started off against us, the Instigators, a 110-104 victory for us against the Lions, but then that started a 3-game losing streak. So they also went on the next week to the Windy City Inferno and lost that matchup. Then they had the game on Saturday against the Wizards. That was a 3-game losing streak, not something very common for the Lions. But then they had the game on Sunday to finish out the season with a 115-98 victory over the Southland Saints. So that put them on the brink of falling to that number 2 seed. And ultimately, what wound up happening, though, is the Lions prevailed there and got the number 1 seed at 20-6. Aces go to the number 2 seed, 15-3. Kings go to the number 3 seed at 8-3. And then we've got the Maysville Miners 5-6. Indiana Legends 4-12, and Louisville Pros at 3-8, rounding out the rest of the division. But just an interesting end there to the Red Division, going into the finale of the regular season. Ace was very close there to grabbing that number 1 seed. And then obviously, the Kings, we played against the Kings and the Aces, so we had a good impact as far as that goes this weekend, for those teams, trying to help them jump up in their standings. Maybe not as beneficial for the Lions, but the Lions were able to get that number 1 seed. Aces 2, Kings 3, Miners 4, Legends 5, Pros 6. So same thing as last season. That'll make the Lions with the team that plays the play-in winner. Then the Aces and the Kings match up against each other. And then it will be the Legends and the Pros play for that first play-in matchup. Winner of that goes on to play the Maysville Miners. Winner of that matchup then goes on to play the Lions. Now, here's the other interesting thing. So again, like I said, the ABA always has fun, interesting things. So not only did a team get added to our division this week, a team actually dropped out of the Red Division this week. So let's look at the updated bracket. So this is courtesy of Minotaur Streaming. Again, thank you to Minotaur Streaming. Somebody that we have seen do some of our broadcasts as well this season, and they do an amazing job with these graphics and their broadcast as always. And I believe they're going to be streaming these games live, all the ones located in the Lions venue. So you can catch those games. They will be streamed by Minotaur Streaming. Again, that's for all those Lions venue games. But you'll notice here an interesting thing happened. The Ohio Kings dropped out. They have decided that they are not playing in the play-ins, playoffs, anything further this season. The regular season was the end of their season. They are done. They are not playing in playoffs, play-ins, nothing. They are done. So what that means is the Aces actually move on to the championship game. Interesting. I don't understand 100%. I mean, I get that the bracket was set that way, with the Aces being the number 2 seed and the Kings being the 3 seed. So that was going to be their matchup. And it technically is a forfeit, which means the Aces win and jump into the championship. But that also means that it is a disadvantage for the Lions to win that number 1 seed. Because they won that number 1 seed, now they're going to have to play their way into the championship game. So just lots of weird things going on in the central division or central region of the ABA when it came to playoff time. A lot of last minute changes, and it's interesting to say how this is all going to play. So we've got that game on Saturday. Tomorrow we will have the Louisville Pros against the Legends at the Legends venue. Then on Sunday, winner of that game goes out to travel to Kentucky to play the Maysville Miners. Then the following weekend on Saturday, Saturday the 8th. They will be playing the Lions at their venue. That one will be streamed by Minotaur Streaming. And then the winner of that game goes on to play the Aces. Whoever is the higher seed will get the home field advantage or home court advantage for that matchup. Which again, that's very interesting. Um, and I don't believe they have, as far as I have seen, I have not seen anything um, officially from the Kings. Um, I actually found out about this from Minotaur's social media, but they just had an update that the Kings have withdrawn from the playoffs, and I don't know. I have not seen anything officially made as far as a statement from the team on why they withdrew. Um, I'm not sure if it has something to do with Cam Mitchell going to play in Mexico. I mean, ultimately, that's what I would think it is. They maybe they don't feel as competitive because of that. There is a possibility of maybe some scheduling stuff. I'm not really sure, but that is interesting to say to see nonetheless. I, I I don't know why you would play. I mean, if I'm being honest, I don't know why you play the season all the way through if you do plan on that. But you know they could have had something else pop up, but definitely keep an eye out. And if I see anything, I will definitely share that on the next episode. But that is ABA basketball. You know, always fluid situations and things changing on the fly. So that's what we've got going on in the red division, our previous division. Um, you know, and then we'll look back at the rest of the league and got the central region covered. Again, we'll jump back and show our matchups there one last time before we sign off for the night. But taking a look over at the East, we've got the Hoop Dragons winning their division, the Black division with an 11-2 record. Impressive effort though from the Express, only a one game behind at 10-2. Blue division is won by the Massachusetts Wolves at 11-2. Red division, Central PA Kings at 12-4 win that one. Over in the white division, this is one of the more competitive divisions there. Buffalo Extreme at 18-1, and the Binghamton Bulldogs number 2, 13-2. Both of those teams were ranked in the top 25 power rankings. So that'll be a good matchup and one of those divisions that I'll keep an eye on as far as matchups go throughout the play-ins and playoffs. Over in the South, we've got the Gulf Coast Gladiators winning their division at 17-1. Mississippi Silverbacks, a team that I have mentioned for their late season resurgence, finish at the number 2 seed in that division, 13-7, after struggling early in the season. One of the other undefeated teams there, other than the Chicago Fury, Austin Bats win their division at 16-0 in the Blue division in the South region. Atlanta Aliens 17-3 win the red division in the South, but some very competitive teams and a very large division there with 11 teams. But we also see the Skyhawks 16-3, just a game behind them, and a lot of competitive teams there with only a few losses. In the white division down south, we've got the Kiss Me Lambs 15-1 winning their division. Then we've got over in the west, Guy Levy Legends. Looks like they win the division there at 14-2. The Empire Hounds, though, also 14-2. But it looks like they must have had the tiebreaker with the Guy Levy Legends winning that division. Out in the blue division in the West, we've got the Tucson Buckets easily winning that division at 13-2. And the only other undefeated team in the league, the Silicon Valley Panthers, easily secure that division out in the red division at 17-0. And final division there, the West Division out west. 8-7, the closest that we've seen a division going to that 500 or below mark. San Jose Wolfpack win out the final division there in the ABA. But again, we'll look at the our division, the Black Division there. So Chicago Fury win that division. They are now number 1 seed. They will have home court advantage throughout. Then we've got the Inferno number 2, Saints number 3. And again, we haven't matched up against either one of those teams. Actually, the only team in the division we matched up against was the Fury. Then we've got the Instigators number 4, Frost number 5, and Rebels, the newest team to the division, added just this week at number 6. So tomorrow will be a matchup for the Rebels at the Frost. Winner of that matchup then travels to Fishers and faces your Instigators on Sunday. Again, it should be Sunday at 5 Eastern. We will be playing our play-in game. Winner of that goes on the road to Chicago and plays the defending champion Chicago Furies for their first play-off game of this season. And then the Inferno and Saints will match up as well next weekend. And winner of those two respective matchups go on to play each other for the rights to the Central Region Black Division. But that is what we've got coming up. It's going to be a crazy weekend. And again, we do plan on getting that game live streamed. So everyone who is a Patreon member, the dollar tier or higher, you will have access to that live stream for the play-in game for your Hoosier State Instigators, whether we play the Frost or the Rebels on Sunday. Hopefully there is some kind of stream for their game as well tomorrow, so we can keep an eye on that. If not, we will try to see who we play and make some kind of announcement so our fans have the heads up on that. If not, then I guess just whoever shows up on Sunday is the team we will be playing on Sunday. But I think I'm going to try to make that trip out to the venue as well. It's going to be a crazy weekend for me anyways, because I'll be out working and crazy late hours, past midnight, 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock, somewhere around those lines, and then trying to catch a flight to make it out there to the game right after. But if I make it out there, I'll definitely share my experience. Obviously last season I was out there for the play-in games against the Legends for that first matchup, and then the Phoenix in that second matchup. So hopefully we can win at least that first game. We won the first game last season. If we win the first game this year, that means we move into the playoffs at least, so we don't have to worry about that. But I am really looking forward to this weekend. I think we've got a good chance to make the playoffs this season. Definitely a little bit of a better route to go this season. We just have the one matchup rather than the two. But that is going to do it for tonight's episode. Thank you as always for everyone joining us for Instigate Success, building an ABA franchise. This has been episode 80. Keep an eye out for some kind of announcements as far as who we are playing. But regardless of what happens tomorrow, Instigators will be playing Sunday again at the home venue, Best Choice Fieldhouse in Fishers, Indiana, for at least one more game. And the winner of that game will be the winner of the play-in tournament within the Black Division Central Region and go on to face the number 1 undefeated Chicago Fury and defending league champions very next week out in Chicago. So that's what we got coming up this weekend. Until then, as always, be great and instigate.